This is Module 3, Teaching the Communication Standards. It is part of our World Languages Professional Development Plan. The objectives of this session are identify the components of a thematic unit connecting communication standards, identify ways that the students learn to use and compare structures within the communicative context, and describe the importance of engaging students in activities that go beyond the classroom. We cannot cover in a 30-minute session everything that is part of Chapter 6, Teaching the Communication Standards, but I highly recommend you to read it, and you have the website here, and also a copy of this chapter in our Google folder. These are all the communication standards. The first three ones are the modes of communication, the interpretive, interpersonal, presentational communication. The fourth one is the settings for communication, how a student use the language appropriately in different settings and depending on the context and audience. Number 6 and 5 are related with receptive and productive structures in service of communication, and number 7 is related with language comparisons. All those needs to be part of the thematic unit, and we are going to show you how to integrate all of them, beginning with the end in mind. Most of you are using the core, and they are, all those units are very much aligned with the new standards, but we want to summarize what are the main components. So you include all those in the thematic unit you develop during the school year. Every thematic unit, they need to incorporate communication, culture, and connections. The three modes of communication, use the target language almost exclusively, all the grammar structure as a tool for communication. Most of the activities should develop somehow high thinking skills in a student-centered class. Of course, we need to integrate technology and differentiate instruction, materials, and assessments to meet the individual needs of the students, work with the whole group, but also with the small groups, and provide one-on-one instruction. Provide or give opportunities to use the language beyond the classroom. Include self-assessments and rubrics, and also create opportunities to reflect on the intercultural influences and the similarities and differences in the target language and the languages and cultures students know. A good plan ensures good instruction. So I'm gonna try to incorporate all the standards, communication standards, and see how we can design a unit plan with all of them. The first step would be to determine the level, the length of the thematic unit, the theme, the topics to cover, and the essential questions. The unit, the theme could be young adults around the world, and this could be our essential questions. How does teenage life from USA compare from the target language countries? How is the lifestyle of young people? What kind of activities do they participate on? What are the challenges young people face today personally and professionally? And how do they see their future in different parts of the world? Those essential questions very much can help us designing tasks for the summative assessment. And these essential questions should be or provoke critical thinking, foster creativity, they should be fun and provocative, enhance learner engagement, and also be relevant for them. The second step would be content. When we determine content, we can use all the resources around, all the media, but also our personal and professional experience. We can think about, okay, how is their life in different cities in countries around the world? How, what could be their values and their interests? Uh, on top of their values and interests, what are their hobbies or how do they spend their leisure time? What are the current issues and challenges young adults face? And there are all these topics can really tell us we can develop these topics with many other ideas, like, okay, what are the personal and professional challenges? How do they spend their time with family, with friends? Do they have a balanced work leisure time? Do they practice any kind of a sport? How do they spend weekends? What kind of cultural activities they attend? How much they use the social media? The what is the demographic data when in what are the happiest countries and places in the world? Sorry, happiest should have a T here. And talking about values and interests, what are the differences and similarities among the target language cultures and um, young people in the United States? What are their likes and dislikes, their opinions, ideas, beliefs? What are the concepts they have of solidarity or altruism or values as to like being independent? So being socially committed, or are they materialistic or no? What are their hopes, their size for how do they see their future, right? So we were thinking, okay, how many weeks each of these topics can take? And okay, we can think values and interests may take 2 weeks, depending on their level of the students, and we can make this simple, not as complicated as they could be, and we can apply and teach this unit really at any level. We can dedicate 1 week to the first topic, 2 weeks of talking about hobbies and leisure time, and another 2 weeks to talk about their future and the challenges they face. But the most important is all, all these themes and topics develop communication, focus on cultural themes. Are they meaningful? Are they cognitively challenging? Are they also um, standard standard based? Once do we have the topics, the next step would be the objectives. And for each topic, we can have um, one or two general objective to cover everything. They will need to know and compare values. They will need to explore and evaluate the elements or factors that determine a happy life in different countries and cities. They need to analyze lifestyles and their differences and similarities and compare preferences and hobbies between the target language cultures and students or young people in the United States. What are the young adult goals and desires, and how do they face the obstacles or challenges they have right now. Once to work with objective, what is important to consider? We need to think, are the goals relevant in today's world? Do they have the potential to engage the learners? Do learners acquire new knowledge and skill beyond the French language and culture? Do the goals convey a purpose for communication in each mode? Do the goals integrate really culture, language, and content? Do they provide also an opportunity to use language beyond the classroom? All these questions are important to really know if our objectives are really relevant and meaningful for the students and for their learning process. Now, how we develop the three modes of communication, how do we teach it? What kind of activities we can propose for the students to develop those three modes of communication. Okay, some of them can be okay in a small group, compare work and leisure activities in different cultures, create a persuasive presentation promoting hobbies to promote a more balanced lifestyle. Uh, read and analyze the elements and factors that determine happiness in life. This will develop the first mode of communication, the interpretive. This, if they need to compare and leisure and they do it in a small group, can be interactive. If they create a persuasive presentation, is the third mode of communication, the presentational. Um, uh, and for values and interests, they can also discuss likes, beliefs, and preferences in California and the target language countries. If they discuss with the interpersonal. After viewing videos, present the most important values among young people of different cultures and explore qualities to be successful in life. This could be will help in them developing the third mode of communication, the presentational. If they share the most important challenges, it can be the interpersonal, or it can be the presentational mode. If they interpret illustration, images, artwork, or poems, can be the interpretive mode of communication. If we propose that in a group, a student create and present a video clip with a discourse or a speech, or they need to write a letter or a short film expressing the hopes, wishes, goals of young adults today. This can be the presentation and like kind of final task for the student, can be also used as a summative assessment. And after the modes of communication, what would be the next step? Yes, the next standards are related with the grammar, right? With the structures. So we will need to incorporate the grammar. So let's see what we are going to need to teach in order for the students to communicate and around all these topics. So we will need to think about what are the functions first, the linguistic functions. They will need to compare and contrast, right? They will need to identify similarities and differences. They will need to describe and explain qualities and values and opinions. They need to draw conclusion. We will need to teach them how to share activities and hobbies, so like and dislike, needs to define obstacles, make recommendations, propose solutions. So all this and probably much more would be the functions that students and we will need to work on. On top of that, standards 5 and 6 are around grammar, okay? Structures. So for these specific units, we will need to teach adjectives, conjunctions, or transitional words, type of test, cognates and special vocabulary, all the terminology related with technology, the conditional tense verbs and the subjunctive, and I'm sure you will come out with much more, with many more. But how do we teach grammar? Uh, it needs to be taught in a different way. In the past, the topics of our lesson was the past perfect, the future. Now everything should be around a thematic unit, and the recommendation of the California Department of Ed, the ACFOL, the most effective model or approach is to use the PACE model. That stands for presentation, attention, co-construction, and extension. These are 4 phases, and it's very simple, make a lot of sense, and the idea behind is to teach grammar in context. So the first phase is, to present a text, and on the presentation, we work on comprehension, and we use authentic tests that can be meaningful, and they can really engage students on listening and on comprehension. After students comprehend that test and participate in a discussion about what happened in the test, we can underline, highlight, or mark all the grammatical structures that we would like the students to pay attention to. So they pay attention to those and make observations about the functional similarities and what is the structure of those those terms or grammar, and what are the difference, what is the ending, what is the subject and the verb, whatever. And it doesn't have to be long, it can be short, just with their observations. After this phase, all the students with the teacher guide the discussion about those patterns that the students may have found, compare the use of one form with another, tell what role the form plays in this authentic test. So engaging students in this discussion or dialogue, they can come out with make guesses about the role of the form, the structure, and what is that grammatical form all around, and what is the rule they observe. So after their guesses and their observation, we can all together, or we as teachers, make a summary of that particular grammatical form. And after that, the extension phase will be about, okay, the teacher, plan for cover some gaps students may have, and plan some student practice with the new form of or structure. Finally, the activity would be just to apply what the student have learned in the presentation phase. Teacher, if they have presented a poem, students may need to create another poem that's similar to the one that was presented, at the beginning of the session, so we know if they are able to apply and understood this grammatical form. Teaching grammar with this model will really help a student memorizing the grammar, the concept much better, and they will be motivated to learn. It can be integrated with the topic, so they use the language and they use and repeat and apply what they have learned, and use it in as a way or as a vehicle or as a tool for communication, what would be much more effective. And talking about the standard number 6, if we want to really move learners from the use of structures receptively in service of communication to the use of structures productively, teachers needs to really provide focused, corrective feedback. But when and how? Because if we correct too much, students may not want to make mistakes and participate. So we have to be careful. And the two methods that are much more effective is the recast. They have it can be like 39% of effectiveness. And they correct errors in that percentage, but elicitation is the best one. But let's see, I'm going to show you in the next slide how are they all about. I think teachers should use them all, and depending on the particular activity and the level of the students. What teachers use the most is the recast. Teachers can rephrase part of the student statements so as to correct it. But if a student say, "It go to the beach," a teacher can say, "Oh, you went to the beach," and so you don't correct directly like in the elicitation. That with these examples or samples, you can really see what is this method is all about. If a student say, "I will go to the concert this night," you can say, "I will go to the concert." How do we say this night in French? I will go to the concert. Yes, tonight, not this night. So this is the most effective, but we really need to be careful. We don't want to correct students in the middle of a discourse, or correct the students sometimes in front of them, in front of the rest of the classroom, because they may not wanna answer any more questions if they have made mistake, and in front of the classroom we correct them all. Comparisons, that is the last standards, number 7, in the analysis of language variation are extremely valuable learning tools, serving to expand the students' experience of both the target language and of English. And those comparisons should be made not only between different language, also among regional and dialectic differences within a language. And so we need to compare the morphology, the order, the syntax, the spelling, the cognates, the prefixes and suffixes, etc. It's important to develop both language or to build one language on the previous knowledge you have of the other one. And finally, how we should assess the communication skills. Not all the students are able to express their knowledge the same way. So we need to allow a variety of ways to demonstrate knowledge and skills, uh, provide opportunities for activate prior knowledge, and teach test taking and assessment strategies. Um, Give them clear expectations, always model and practice, practice, practice. Repetition is always the key. Use self-assessments, rubrics, and guide students to really set their own learning goals. If you have questions, you can always contact me. You have my email here. And this is the end of the session. Thank you all for your participation.